truly believe that tabletop games are for everyone. There is such a variety in the genre and kinds of games that you can play that there really is just something that everybody could love. But there can be some hurdles to entry and enjoying play, especially if you are one of my fellow neurodivergent players. Now, whether you're dealing with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, or any other form of neurodiversity, these challenges can sometimes make it tricky to fully enjoy the game. Your brain just gets in the way. But just because your brain works differently, that's not a reason not to game. And sometimes it can be a strength. You just have to learn how to work with it. I've got some tips that can help lower the bar of entry and make your games more enjoyable and more accessible. This is a video that isn't for everyone. I hope everyone would want to watch it and enjoy it, but if it doesn't apply to you, cool. Go watch another video. All right, now I want to talk to my fellow neurodivergent folks and people who are interested in supporting their fellow neurodivergent players, even if you're neurotypical. Whee! Everyone is different. My neurospicy may have a different flavor from your neurospicy. What works for one person is not always going to work for the next. So take some of these tips and, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, okay. There are a variety of tips in this video, kind of in the hopes that there will be something for everyone to take away. And I've split this video into 3 sections. Things neurodivergent players can do for themselves, adjustments the entire table can make when you have someone who is neurodivergent, and ways for neurotypical folks to assist or make their gaming space more welcoming. So what can you as a neurodivergent player do to make the game easier and better for yourself? For anyone who's just getting into games or learning a new system, sitting down with the rule book can be overwhelming. It can be a lot of words. It can, depending on the system, can be a little confusing where to start. Now, there are some folks that sitting down and reading the rule book, that's their jam. They can read it and instantly apply the rules. They love it. They will go pick up all of the rule books and read all of them. That's not for me. As a dyslexic individual, looking at the amount of words in the book was a little intimidating, I'll be honest. Now, what really helped me actually get into gaming was I got to be at a table and watch the first 30 minutes or hour of a game before my character joined. I'd gotten some basic rules explained ahead of time and knew some of it just kind of from being around games most of my life and pop culture, but actually sitting down and seeing it played was so much of an easier entry point for me to grasp the concepts. Actual plays can be really helpful for this purpose, whether it's learning your first game or just learning a new system. Especially if you are someone who learns more from visual examples or observing rather than just reading and then implementing. Also, YouTube videos and tutorials. Thanks for being here. It's like watching a tutorial on how to cook or build something before you try it yourself. You can see the steps, you can visualize it better and have a better understanding than just reading words and having more abstract thoughts. The next thing you can do to help yourself is use a better character sheet. I've noticed over the last couple of years, more designers are being more aware of accessibility and readability in their character sheets, but still, character sheets can be overwhelming and just hard to read. Luckily, a lot of people have made alternatives. You can find class-specific character sheets or more simplified, pared down, or even just really beautiful, ornate character sheets. There are a lot out there, especially for the major systems. I know for some people, they find having a class-specific character sheet is really helpful, as the relevant information for your character's class is going to be in a much more visible spot, so you're not going to be searching as much. You may pick a character sheet that has images or just a very simplified, easy to read thing. Maybe you use a different color pen to fill it in than the text, so the stats stand out, whatever it is that makes it easier for you to read and then be able to find what you need. Now, I've done a couple of videos on character sheets framed around what's great for dyslexic players, as I have dyslexia, and several other neurodivergent people have mentioned in the comments that they also find those useful. I'll put links to those up here. You may also find that using a digital character sheet is helpful to organize the information, and some will also do the math for you when you're rolling or keep track of inventory in a way that is much easier and takes a little bit of that mental load off if that is something that you find difficult. Next up, action cheat sheets. These are great for neurodivergent or neurotypical new or seasoned players. The idea is give yourself a little note card that has a quick guide that lists all of your possible actions on your turn, like attacking, casting spells, using items, moving, etc. I'll pop one up from the Starfinder beginner box as an example. Especially for spellcasters, I also do this with a couple of spells, both for my actions as well as kind of come up with a standard prepare spell list. So I figure out what are my character's kind of ghost to spells are. That means if I don't have a clear idea of what I'm going to do in a round, I cast Burning Hands or whatever, rather than be overwhelmed by the multitude of choices some casters have. By having these little guides here, it's taking, again, a little bit of work that my brain has to do kind of out and put it on paper. It's a nice reminder of here are the number of actions, here are the different things that I can do. So you aren't needing to have all of that info in your mind. If you find it hard to stay focused or find it hard to remember all of those rules. Fidget items are also great and can help you stay focused. If you find you are somebody that your mind wanders or it's just hard to sit still for a couple of hours, having a fidget toy nearby can help keep you grounded and keep you focused on the game. I knit oftentimes during games. I know some folks who stack dice, doodle, or have a fidget spinner or cube, kind of one of those more classic fidget toys. Now, with all of these, I do suggest you try and be mindful of choosing something that's not going to be a distraction to the rest of the table. Like a clicky toy or even the clacking of rolling dice can be distracting or start to get annoying if it happens over and over and over and over and over and over. I even check that my knitting isn't going to distract the people I game with when I'm playing with new folks. But there's probably something that you can find that will give you that outlet for that restless energy to help you focus while also not disrupting anyone else at the table. Next, write stuff down, take notes. What those notes are and how detailed they are, that's up to you. But writing things down will help you remember it. There are studies, I don't need to link to them, but there have been studies. It can also help you focus to not jot notes down or just doodle. It gets the info somewhere other than your head, so even if you forget it, you can look up your notes and remember what potion you found in the abandoned wizard tower, or what was that NPC's name from the boat you were on. Neurodivergent or neurotypical, notes help, but I think especially for some of us neurodivergent folks, it helps take a little bit of the effort our brain needs to do, and gets it in a physical location out of this space, so that our brains just have a little less work they need to do, and we can really focus on playing the game and let our brain do what it needs to do. A big thanks to all of our patrons, especially Alicia. If you enjoy our videos, please consider heading on over to patreon.com/rollforinitiative and check out the perks of being a patron. We love making these videos for you, and becoming a patron is the best way to support us. Okay, let's get back to the video. Now on to kind of table level. What are things that the table can do to help neurodivergent players? First one that's a little bit more player by player is finding your comfort level with role-playing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. There's a wide spectrum when it comes to the role-play. Some people do love being kind of on one side where it's fully in character, doing a voice or accent, always speaking in first person, but you may find this really uncomfortable and choose to use third person and always describe what and how your character is doing rather than speaking and acting it out. Now, most people will fall kind of somewhere in the middle, and this works because most games have social stats, and we have dice to make social interactions part of the game aspect of it. Me personally, I usually end up doing a mix. Most of the time, I'm more on the in first person. I sometimes do accents or a voice, but there'll be days or even just moments in game where I feel more comfortable speaking in third person. It feels a little bit more comfortable for me. Whether it's my anxiety is really high that day, and I'm just very aware of I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of other people. I'm worried about them judging me for leaning into the role play. I give myself the permission to do third person because that's going to make me feel and enjoy game a lot more. Now, this is something that I think if the entire table play is kind of one extreme or the other, except for one person, it can be a little awkward. So you may want to just kind of chat about what are the roleplay styles that everyone has in a session 0 or early on, so everyone's comfortable and no one's going to feel pressured to fit a style that doesn't work for them. Have regular short breaks. Especially if you have any issues with staying focused, breaks are crucial. You can get up, get a snack, stretch your legs, use the restroom, zone out for a few minutes, whatever it is. It gives everyone a chance to kind of recharge and refocus to come back to the game. Maybe you take a 5-minute break every hour, or maybe you just take a break when you need to and it kind of feels like it fits the story of the game. How frequent and long your breaks are really is going to depend on your individual table. But if you do have anyone who has any kind of focus, social anxieties, stuff like that, having those breaks to just kind of reset can be super useful. Visual aids like miniatures, maps, and virtual tabletops can make the game much more engaging, as well as really help anyone who struggles to focus or even just to have that mental visualization. Using a map in combat really helps you see, okay, where is my character and what is around them? If you zone out for a second or are lost in thought, kind of figuring out what action to take on your next turn, when it gets to you, you can just look at the map and miniatures to figure out what's happened while your concentration was elsewhere. You can't do this quite as much with theater of the mind. You'd have to ask for wait, what's going on? Who's around me? So it allows for people who maybe have a hard time focusing on all of the verbal input a chance to process the information in a different way. I think virtual tabletops can also make this super easy, as you can also pop up pictures of places you are or the NPCs your characters are interacting with. That's one of the things I like about I'll have the monster book with me so I can show the picture of the monster even if I don't have the miniature on the table, or show the picture of the city that they're in. Create a conducive environment by limiting distractions. Again, this is also going to vary by individuals in your table, but if you find it really hard to focus or tune out background noise, playing in a game store with customers shopping or other tables playing may be really difficult for you. You might want to find a much more quieter space, or a space that is not going to have that visual distraction of lots of different games everywhere or a TV on in the background. Along with this point, I'll also add audio aids can be super helpful. Ambient music or sound effects can help kind of set the mood, and for some people have a certain level of background noise that can actually help them focus and stay immersed. Again, this is one in my experience that can go either way, as that can also cause people to be distracted. Be flexible with rules. Don't be afraid to tweak the rules to make the game more fun. Look, almost every table has their own unique blend of house rules. If tracking every arrow you shoot or spell component adds too much complexity to the game, simplify it. Get rid of tracking arrows and spell components. Assume you have them when needed unless there is a specific circumstance, and then, GM, you can be oh, your arrows were all stolen. Ta-da, now you don't have arrows. If you find that there are rules that add a complexity to the game that you are really struggling with, talk to the rest of the table and see, is there a way to not use this particular rule or come up or have a simplified version of it? And a lot of these kind of fall into my last point for the table as a whole, which is ask for help from your fellow players and GM. If you feel comfortable, let the table know if there's an aspect of the game you struggle with or what what your neurodivergence is. Most people are going to understand, and they will offer any assistance if they can. I oftentimes will turn to my fellow players and ask them to help with math, and ask them to help with figuring out the dice plus bonuses and all that math, especially in moments of high stress, like a major boss battle, and even in moments where I don't, because I've let my fellow players know that my dyslexia and dyscalculia means I take longer sometimes on figuring out the results of dice rolls. They're just more patient. Most players, unless they are assholes, are understanding, and they want to support you because they know and understand that the game's better when everyone's having fun. And hey, I can help you out, and then, there's also something that you'll probably end up helping them out with. Okay, so what about any of you neurotypical folks who are watching this video, especially like game masters? What can you do to help your neurospicy friends out? First of all, don't punish bad behavior. I hate calling it bad behavior, but if you know someone has ADHD, don't yell at them because they asked to have something repeated because their focus was elsewhere. Sure, it's frustrating. We also know it's frustrating when our brains choose to sabotage us. Instead in those moments, maybe ask out of game or later on, say like, hey, I noticed you were having a hard time remembering this stuff. Is there anything that I can do to help? There might not be, but it's a much better way than just being mean to them about it. Or point out moments where they were really focused and maybe ask like, hey, you were able to focus so much better today than last session. What happened? Is it something that I can help with? Especially game masters, this is something that you might be able to help set the stage so that it's a better environment for everyone. And, if you do see someone who's pulling back or distance or just not as engaged, invite them back in by asking, hey, what's your character doing right now? Remind them what's going on, or just, be understanding if maybe today's been a rough day and the player's not quite as there mentally. We can all meet each other where we are and find a good middle ground where everyone's comfortable to play. Also, game masters, please, please, please give lore in digestible chunks. Your neurotypical players are also probably going to appreciate this. It's hard for anyone to stay focused when you get presented with a Silmarillion backstory all at once. Instead, give details gradually. It's okay not to give your players every piece of information all at once. Let them ask for more, or have their characters need to seek out the rest of the information. It's going to keep everyone engaged and keep you from having anybody getting overloaded or just lost in the game. So if you are a fellow neurodivergent player, what do you do that makes your gaming experience better? Any other tips or variations on things I already said? I'd love to chat about this more with everyone in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye!